Good morning, everyone. Normally, we post our weekly announcement videos on Monday, Sunday sometimes, but mostly Monday. I actually wanted to post this out a little early given the fact that we have a fairly major assignment due in this module, and I see some folks starting to be prepared and aware of that, and that's great. So please don't think that that's a negative. But I want to make sure that you have the opportunity to get feedback on that issue as well as everybody else who might have other issues going on that can't work ahead. So with that in mind, this is Module 7. It starts next Monday, so you're not behind schedule. You didn't suddenly sleep through a holiday or anything like that. But let me see. There we go. So in terms of the required resources, now I'm not sure if there's a discrepancy, but the reading on that particular slide when you go to the required resources, it indicates Chapter 2, Chapter 7, and Chapter 8. However, in the Learning Module course shell, it shows 7 and 8. So you might take a second and review Chapter 2, excuse me, and make sure it's not something that needs to be addressed. But really, I think it's going to be Chapter 7 and Chapter 8. So then there's also 2 additional articles, Water Diversity, Inclusion, Equity, and Belonging. And then the second one, Diversity Wins, How Inclusion Matters. And I'll be honest with you, this is a hot button topic in all of HR as well as business right now, because organizations and society as a whole have really looked at how folks are being treated, how we appreciate what separates us, but how to bring all that together and be successful. So this is an important topic that you will certainly see more things on as you move forward in your academic careers as well as your professional careers. And then lastly, there's a video that you can see that you'll want to watch as well. I believe it said it was fairly brief, 2 minutes. I have not had a chance to watch it yet. So, all right, assignments. Pretty brief this week overall in terms of we've got a discussion, and you can see in the initial post, they want you to propose 4 or 5 ideas to create a more inclusive environment. With 4 or 5, I'm not looking for super in-depth things, but what I would encourage you to do is if you say, we're going to have a diversity club or whatever, and you can use whatever ideas you come up with or you research through your things here. Propose how and why in addition to that. How will that improve diversity and inclusion, belonging, things like that? And why? Why would you select that over a different program? That's really what we're kind of looking for. And then in responses, and again, they're looking for a minimum of 2. If you can provide quality, credible comments to more than 2, kudos, because that will only advance the conversation and discussion. But they're looking, did you consider diversity in the workforce? Have you considered the unique challenges and opportunities of a hybrid workforce? That's another area that continues to be a hot button topic with the return to office and some of those things. And then how can their ideas be implemented, or the ideas be implemented? So things to think about as you work through that discussion. So I would encourage you, if you're able, post early and post often. Don't just go in and do your initial post and then the next day do your 2 peer responses and go, got that done. Discussion is an ongoing exchange of ideas, and to do that, you've got to be present throughout that discussion. Doesn't mean you have to respond to everybody in the class, but more is usually better. So, Project 2, this is kind of that continuation of the Department of Labor scenario that you've been working through with Milestone 1 and Project 1 and a number of other assignments related to that. You may be going, by God, are we ever going to get done with this? Yes, you are. Project 2 is kind of that culmination of this assignment. But I will tell you, Department of Labor investigations can be very lengthy and very in-depth. So this course and these assignments have been brief in what you will experience if the Department of Labor shows up at your door for a wage complaint. I was in an organization where they had conducted the investigation, the findings were done. I simply had to finish making sure that the employees were paid and that we provided the documentation back to the Department of Labor. But I had the opportunity to review the whole process and everything, and it was a rather lengthy process in which some of our employees were not paid properly. So it can be a very in-depth process and very timely. But I will tell you, this assignment was very accurate in what happened during the DOL investigation. So it's not a way off base scenario. But that being said, so you're going to do some more handbook review. You are going to submit 2 documents. There is a Excel spreadsheet risk audit document that you'll complete and submit, as well as another manager memo. This is not a revision of the manager memo you submitted in Project 1. This will be a separate new manager memo. So don't dredge up the draft of the other one and think that you're going to be able to, revise it and resubmit it. So, busy slide, and you know me and sliduments, but this is the key topics out of the rubric and the proficient rating. I didn't include the needs improvement or any of that, and I did not include the articulation of a response. That's pretty standard on all of our written assignments. That's your writing mechanics, grammar, spelling, all that. And then your references. Folks, do some work. Cite your references. Do some research on this. This is where that's going to come through if you do some research and find evidence to support your assertions. So, going from left to right, policy errors. Identifies missing content. This is pretty straightforward. This is going to be a high-level overview. Did my assessment, I found these errors. Boom. Concisely written. You'll address it. It'll be great. Policy ranking. This is where it's going to get a little more in-depth because you're going to identify the risks from highest to lowest. And it's going to be important that you outline those and I don't want to see a bullet point list that says, they forgot to close the door, they forgot to turn off the lights, we didn't pay people, whatever that is. If you want to put it in a bullet point format, great. But if you give me a shopping list where I can go down and check and go, yep, okay, that's not going to cut it. Why was it a risk? That's what I'm going to be looking for. 1, I want to see what the risk is. 2, why is it a risk? That's going to be the key matter. And then they go into the next one for law and regulation identification. And these two can actually be merged just a little bit because you can go in and say, we noticed that the definition was not correct for exempt employees. This is a clear violation of the the Fair Labor Standard Act because it, doesn't define, and employees can be confused and stuff like that. You don't have to write a book about it, but I do want some credible documentation to support why it's a risk and the legal problems involved in that. And then you're going to summarize that. And that's that middle column there, handbook analysis summary. This is kind of your conclusion, if you will. I wouldn't title it a conclusion because it can be kind of misleading that you're wrapping up the points or the memo. But summarize it. Go back and hit 2 or 3 of the key points. If you come back and say, we've identified these risks, these 4 risk items, here's why it's important, and summarize that nicely, you'll be in golden shape. Then you're going to transition into the risk and ranking rationale. So that kind of goes back to that second column where you're going to identify it, but you can explain it. And I will tell you, if you merge those 2 together in your memo, that's okay. It's nice to be able to see the sections and say, handbook policy errors, and then read down and see the next section with the section header. Doesn't always lend well for this type of assignment. So if you blend some of that together, that's okay. Just make sure you address those elements as required in the rubric because that's what we're going to be looking for. Obviously, the role in human resources. So how does management and or HR fix the problem? Don't give me a comment about we need to look at it or we should fix the issue. That doesn't address it. We're looking for solutions. As an HR professional, you're going to be hired to solve problems. That may include identifying the issue. It may include assessing the issue. But at the end of the day, you should be able to come forward and say, here's the problem. Here's how it's going to get fixed. That's what's going to set you apart from the guy that's in the corner office doing data analysis. You need to be able to strategically think not only HR, but the broader organization. How does this problem impact the organization? How do I solve it? And then lastly, we've got the manager memo, risks to the companies. We're looking for that summary of how these risks will impact. Again, we're getting back to assessing the problem and identifying solutions. So that's what we're looking for. I don't mind bullet points if they're emphasizing a particular point, but please do not send me a shopping list of bullet points. That does not address the requirements of this assignment. This is a written assignment, so we're looking for proper APA formatting, double-spaced, 1-inch margins, all that jazz. References, including in-text citations, reference page. Make sure your references are also double-spaced, left-hanging indent, all those things that the APA requires as you move forward on that. So, kind of give you a quick overview, and like I say, I'm going to post it early just so you have the information ahead of time versus waiting till Monday like we normally do. But hope everybody has a great weekend, and if you have questions, please reach out. I'm happy to help. Thank you.